Hey there, my name is Cole Adams, and you are watching the best college basketball podcast out there that covers the entire sport of college basketball, brackets, bubbles, and bid stealers. Now, here are your hosts, Sam Fetterman and Jonathan Lidskin.
Season 7, episode 20 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bit Stealers. I am Sam Fetterman. That is Jonathan Lidskin. Jonathan, how are you doing?
Well, if you didn't make a snake sound with your S's every single time during the intro, I'd be a lot better. But overall,
What, you didn't like
I'm
that?
okay. No, I could live without it.
Interesting.
Dude, so yeah, I'll be discussing my coach's list without Sam, apparently.
Your coaches?
I'm leaving, dude. I swear to God. One more time and I'm gone.
I agree, DeRosa. I agree. Jonathan.
Yeah.
Would you like to discuss what you did?
Well, I did a lot of things today, Sam. I was at
No. Stay on topic.
Is this my fifth?
I think it is.
List or fourth?
I believe it's your fifth.
I think it is my fifth. Wow, that's crazy. From the god awful one the first year to this. Yeah, this is, by no means a perfect list. I'm always open to criticism, feedback, however you want to say it. But yeah, I rank the top 50 coaches in college basketball heading into next season every single June. And I throw some honorable mentions in there. I've been outsourcing some honorable mentions the last couple of years. Thank you to those who helped out with that. But yeah, this is something fun that I like to do. And, ranking coaches is difficult. So I don't expect, everyone to agree. But, I have a lot of criteria and thoughts when I do this. So I'm glad we get to discuss.
You started this because you saw a top 50 coaches list that was just so bad that you couldn't stand it.
Well, there was one that was really bad that I could not stand. But the other reason I started this is because mid-major coaches don't get nearly enough credit and love that they should. Because I don't think that just because someone is at a high major job that makes them better than someone at a mid-major job. And that's kind of what I do with my list. I obviously, evaluate a bunch of different things, X's and O's, recruiting, obviously winning. But how well are you doing relative to your resources has become another big part of this.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm ready to jump into this if you want to.
I'll let you start.
All right. We usually go, 5 at a time?
I think we start with one at a time, and then we figure it out from there.
Okay. So Dan Hurley is number one for the third straight year, I think.
I believe so.
And I lose track of this sometimes, but, he's coached in 3 of the last 4 national title games. He runs great offense. Their defense is consistently high end. And, they've built this elite culture of winning. And, when you don't have a good scout on them, they're basically unbeatable.
That's what they've been for a while now, Jonathan. It's obviously that 1 year where they weren't all that great in 24-25. But this past year, they really addressed what they needed out of the portal and did a great job. I think that Terrace Reed's development into an All-American caliber player, one of the best players at the NCAA tournament. If UConn had won the national championship, he would have been Final Four most outstanding player. Silas Demery was terrific this season. I think there was a lot to like from UConn this year, and you just see how Dan Hurley is able to develop talent and how he's able to find the right talent for his system, make everything seem to work, and just the culture, as you mentioned, it's just a bunch of sickos.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I'll be looking out for this year is when you start to lose, that brain trust on your bench, how do you continue to excel as a program? And so, this is Dan's first time losing an assistant coach at UConn to another head job. So we'll see without Luke Murray, their offensive coordinator, how they do and if that offense can remain at a high level.
And I think it will. Like, I don't see why it wouldn't. Just because.
Yeah, I mean,
Murray's
he's
gone.
been in the program for so long that I would guess they sort of have the blueprint.
That's what I would assume is happening.
And I would imagine, Dan has a lot of say in what they do offensively as well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
You want to move on?
Yeah, Todd Golden's number 2. I do want to mention because Mr. DeRosa asked in the comment section, this would have been the Dusty spot had he not left for the Mavs. I think that you could definitely argue him being number 1. I mean, heck, I said a couple weeks ago, I think there was an argument for him being the best basketball coach in the world, period. But this spot was reserved for Dusty May.
Would you say Dan Hurley is the best basketball coach in the world?
Man, you're putting me on the spot here, but
and if not, who is the best basketball coach in the world?
I kind of think it's Joe Mazzulla.
I kind of think it's Don Staley.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I was thinking, men's coaches, but
yeah,
yes,
Mazzulla is up there though, no doubt.
So, but number 2, because Dusty May is now with the Dallas Mavericks, is Todd Golden, who has now been a 1 seed back years that won the national title last year. They have sort of figured out this, advanced analytical system to be elite. And, that's controlling the glass, winning the possession battle, taking, high quality shots. They, didn't take like bad 2s this year at all. Really, it was rim and 3. DeRosa might be right about dating all too. But yeah, like Todd Golden has had tremendous success these last 2 years. It felt right to put him at 2, considering they won the title, and I know they got upset, but then followed that up with a 1 seed.
They were as good for most of the season. They were unbelievable in the second half of the year. We talked about it with Eric Fawcett though, about the roster build and how they're not really going for ceiling at the moment, and that's a little bit concerning to me. I'm not certain I would have him number 2, but I wouldn't have him any lower than 4.
Yeah, it's tough to put a guy who won a national championship, less than 16 months ago, any lower than, probably out of the top 4, especially when, when you have guys below him that have not won a national championship in recent years.
Jonathan, what do you think about some of these? The fact that there's not a ton of champions in college basketball right now.
Well, you and I have had this discussion before, and it's in large part due to the fact that a lot of the great coaches have retired who won titles.
Well, now we just got a champion and he just left.
That is true. I think that is a weird case, but Coach K retired, not even 5 years ago. Roy Williams retired not even 6 years ago. Like, these coaches, Jim Calhoun, like these coaches that won titles are gone now, and this is like kind of this new era of coaches that we've moved into. We have so many young guys in the sport right now that are excelling, and it's only a matter of time before some of them win one.
Speaking of, he's got to win one at some point. It does feel like number 3 missed his opportunity.
Yeah, Kelvin Sampson led by double digits in the second half of a national title game, not even 2 years ago, and they come back. Elite group I think that he had last year, talent wise, but didn't really click the way his previous group had. Kelvin has been in the top 3, I think, every single year of this list. Like, Houston is the model for consistency in college basketball right now. Sam, I know you always talk about like they had a stretch where I think it was 4 years in a row they were number 2 in KenPom every year. So they just finished number 4. The Sweet 16 exit obviously stings a little bit, but Kelvin's an elite coach. His defense is always among the best in the country, and I expect it to continue to be until he decides to hand the program off to his son. So, and Kellen's going to get mentioned later, even though he's not a head coach right now because of a general topic that you and I are going to discuss.
Number 4, Jon Scheyer.
Yeah, this was tough for me at 4 and 5. I thought the top 3 was pretty clear to me.
Do you want to tell me why you told me? Do you want to tell everyone why you told me you had Scheyer over Pitino?
No, because that's not the real reason I have him over Pitino. And like, granted, like Jon Scheyer did outcoach Rick Pitino to get out of the Sweet 16 and get to his 3rd straight regional final. Something that Rick Pitino has still not done at St. John's, and obviously, different programs. But I think that
although Rick Pitino has very much tweeted about the regional finals.
Oh, he has made sure to do that. But I think that when it comes to Jon Scheyer, he's one of the elite X's and O's coaches in the sport now, and I think people have finally picked up on that. Duke has lost 6 games in the last two years. There are 7 games, excuse me.
And all of them have been completely insane.
Yeah, they're 70-7. All of them have been absolutely bonkers games outside of maybe the Kansas game.
And they had a chance to tie that one at the end too.
Yeah, so obviously, like, there has been some late game collapse stuff. There's no avoiding that. But, he's coached in 3 straight regional finals. He's gotten to a Final Four. They're consistently winning the ACC regular season and the ACC tournament championships. Like, I don't know what more he needs to do outside of winning a national championship to be considered one of the best in college basketball, and I think he's already there.
I think it's pretty clear that he's already there. Nobody is recruiting high school at a higher level. Nobody is operating a program just as a general rule at a higher level. I mean, you look at Houston. He's finished above Houston and KenPom in the last 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you want to say Houston is operating at a higher level, fine. But then Duke's number 2, and UConn, like, would be number 3 in that, even though, like, they just finished 9th in KenPom. They made a national championship. But that's kind of where we're at.
Kind of going back to what I said, I think that UConn, when they're playing non-conference games, like, are better prepared than any program in the country.
Yes, and I think that Duke is so dominant in the conference. They've made the ACC look terrible the last couple of years, and like the ACC has been terrible. This year it was really good, or at least better, and they were pumping teams. They pumped Louisville twice. They pumped Virginia. They killed Clemson. They beat SMU. They beat everyone except Carolina, and then they ended up beating Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they beat Michigan, in the middle of all of that as well. Like I said, there's not much more to do for him besides win a national title, and I'd be pretty shocked if it doesn't come soon.
Rick Pitino, number 5.
Yeah, still one of the elite coaches in college basketball. He's obviously older than, this new generation that has kind of come in, but he's still doing his thing. Like, the metrics have not loved them the way they've loved some of these other teams the last couple of years, but it's hard to argue with 31-5 Big East double champs, 2 seed, and 30-7 Big East double champs, 4 seed, I believe.
Yes.
Maybe 5. It was 5.
It was 5.
Because of a rough non-con. But yeah, like nobody in college basketball right now at the high major level is running their conference like Rick Pitino, in my opinion. Like, Duke has obviously won 2 straight, double champions as well as St. John's, but it doesn't really feel in conference right now like anyone's close. Like, I think UConn is a better program on a national scale. Within the Big East, though, St. John's does better than them.
Yeah. Defense, full court press, culture, like the way that they attack the transfer portal, the money that's in that program, just the way that he's operating this program is at the highest level that program's been at for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah. Obviously, it's taken them to heights they've never seen before.
And like this isn't something that this basically happened overnight. Like they hired Rick Pitino and they were immediately back.
Yeah, very easily arguable that they should have made the NCAA tournament in his first year.
They should have. They were 25th in Ken Bomb.
Yeah, they were by far the highest Ken Bomb team to miss.
But my point is just that of we are overlooking. We talk so much about what St. John's is right now and all this that we forget how quickly everything changed for that program.
Yeah, I mean, this is still only a couple years removed from being an absolute disaster under Mike Anderson.
I mean, they made their first Sweet 16 in 25 years. So they were making one tournament every 5 years, and now they're gonna make it every year until he's gone, and that's just one thing. It just happened immediately.
Yeah, and I mean, I think as Shire warrants criticism for the March Madness losses. I think that you can criticize Rick Pitino for that too. I mean, a very winnable game against Arkansas that they lose in the second round 2 years ago, and then just this year. I mean, you can say what you want about how good that Duke team was. They were banged up, and St. John's led by 10 with 8 minutes to go.
Had them on the ropes with 10 minutes left.
Very winnable game to go to a regional final and get your fourth game with UConn, and they could not.
And they would have won that game.
Based on what we've said on this pod, yes.
I would have been there. It would have been the third UConn St. John's game that I would have been at over the season.
You and I have been, how do I say this? You've pointed out that nobody in college basketball coaches their team to their identity better than Rick Pitino.
Correct.
And I think I agree with that.
Correct. Number 6, Tommy Lloyd.
This is a guy who, just at the start of this year, the discussion around him was, he hadn't made an Elite Eight. They had made 3 Sweet 16s and gotten knocked out in all 3 of them. This year, he builds one of the more dominant college basketball teams I've ever seen. And they break through, they get to a Final Four, they lose to a team that was, I think, inarguably better than them.
Yeah.
Double champs of the Big 12. Just, an elite roster builder.
I mean, I was in that building. Pretty inarguably, Michigan was better. Yeah.
Just an elite roster builder and a guy who, has consistently won lots of games. And I think, he's another one that only a matter of time before he gets his title.
Matt Painter.
One of the consistently elite offensive coaches in the sport. I can't say, I think it's certain he wins a title like I have been with some of the other ones, but has pretty much dominated the Big Ten year in and year out for the better part of, the 2020s. I think there was 1 year early where they weren't quite as good, but, consistently in Big Ten title games at the top of the league. They've now gotten to a point where we don't talk about Purdue not getting deep into the NCAA tournament anymore. The FDU loss happened since then. They've gone runner-up, Sweet 16, Elite 8. The March failures are behind them. And I think, Painter's done a really good job overcoming that. We talk about every coach is a choker until he's not. And I think Painter has kind of lost that label, if that's the right term.
Speaking of everyone,
also one of the best in the country at retaining players, which doesn't happen all that much anymore.
Speaking of everyone's a choker until they're not, who do you have at number 8, Jonathan?
Rick Barnes, kind of the same spectrum as Matt Painter, just on the defensive side with not as much success. A consistently top 2-3 team in the SEC year in and year out. The defense is always good, and what I like most about Rick Barnes,
I would also just say Rick Barnes is one possession away from having what Matt Painter's legacy is. And
very true. And a game I was at.
And Matt Painter is one possession away from having the legacy that Rick Barnes has.
So I'm going to name you.
Because, like, we both agree Tennessee beats NC State.
So there are only 3 coaches right now in college basketball who have coached in the last 3 straight regional finals. That's John Shire and Rick Barnes. So, like, you can say what you want about him not having a Final Four. To me, that's more of a where does he stack up career-wise argument versus how he is as a coach right now. Their defense is always going to be elite. And what I've liked in recent years is they've slanted to be more of an offensive team. You know, they've sacrificed being the best defense in the country to be, you know, maybe the 6th best defense in the country. And, you know, instead of being the 50th best offense in the country like they were in a couple years, now they're, you know, consistently inside the top 30 and top 20, depending on the year. So I think that he's done a really good job of adjusting. I do hope he gets to a Final Four before his career ends. It seems like at this point his career won't end until he does get there. But yeah, like, very consistent program he's running.
If he doesn't make the Final Four this coming year, I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, this roster's loaded, and I'm obviously not, you know, doing this list based on, wow, like, you know, I think your team's going to have a great year. We haven't seen that yet. Like, the roster building is one thing, and he's built a great one this year. They certainly have a chance, and he certainly has a chance to move up on this ranking.
Number 9, Tom Izzo. You've had him lower in the past. Why is he in the top 10 right now?
Well, he's kind of fixed a lot of the problems that I was once critical for. Like, in the early 2020s, Michigan State was not adapting offensively at all to what modern teams were doing, and they were suffering because of it. People like don't remember at this point, but Michigan State had a stretch where they went 11 seed out in the first 4, 7 seed out in the second round, 7 seed out in the Sweet 16, and 8 seed out in the second round. They fixed that the last couple years, and they've gotten back to being what we know Tom Izzo's Michigan State programs to be: good point guard play, elite defense, control the glass. You can't argue with the results the last two years. They won the Big Ten last year, played in Elite 8. You know, they were one of the 10 best teams on the sport this year, played in the Sweet 16. And we're right there with UConn. Yep.
And they're going to lose key pieces in the front court this year, but they're going to keep their backcourt. They're going to keep their star in the backcourt in Jeremy Fears. They've got Cohen Carr back. They've got Josiah Jervis coming in. I think they're going to be really, really good this coming year again. For the first time, I maybe won't underrate them in the preseason.
Yeah, I don't think I am.
Yeah, top 10 for me.
Yeah. So, and then to finish off the top 10 here is Brad Underwood, who's coming off his first Final Four.
Okay, and this is kind of like our first like major disagreement.
You wanted this spot for Ben McCollum.
Yes.
Ben McCollum is a fantastic coach, as evidenced by where I have him on this list. But I think it's hard to keep a coach out of the top 10 that has been in a regional final and Final Four in 2 of the last 3 years. So I think
Ben McCollum just made a regional final in year 1 in the Big Ten. Ben McCollum like has not had a moment where like he could be in like a regional final in 2 years out of 3. Like that's just not something that happens.
That's very true.
So like I've always been lower on Underwood just generally. I think he's a great coach. But like,
so I was for a while too, and you know, part of it was I don't think the in-game adjustments were great, and I still don't think he's one of the better ones when it comes to making in-game adjustments. But what I do think is that similar to Rick Barnes, like he's evolved as a coach. Like they build their roster very differently from when he first was running good Illinois teams with Ayo Sunmoon, Kofi Coburn, and you know other guys that those teams had. What's his name? The lefty, Trent Frazier. So
here's my qualm I thought that they had too much of a weakness last year in terms of being able to play aggressively on the defensive end with their lack of forcing turnovers, lack of kind of utilizing their physicality on the roster on that side. And I think it limited them in certain moments. And I think that they really struggled with adjustments, and it showed up against UConn. It showed up against Alabama too, when they couldn't find anyone that could guard LeBaron Philon, and it shows up in their losses. It shows up in their losses.
Yeah, I think
they couldn't adjust after UCLA adjusted, and then Donovan Dent had 15 assists. Like, I think that it's a problem that like they played one way last year, and they played one way the year with Shannon, where it was the booty ball stuff. And I honestly think like that's something that they did differently early on in his tenure. When you're mentioning it, like, yes, his teams right now I think are better, but that 2021 team I think had different ways to beat you.
Yeah, I think that like the pretty consistent theme, if you're going to knock Underwood over the last couple years, is it. I'm going to be delicate when I say this, because keep in mind I have him in the top 10. When Illinois loses close games, it really feels like he gets outcoached.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes back to, I don't think he's perfect in game, but I think he has evolved as a coach in the similar way that Rick Barnes has. Their offenses are consistently really good, and he gets a lot of credit for that, as well as his son, who's on their staff and runs their offense.
Yeah, I think very good. Very, very good coach.
Do we want to go 5 at a time now?
Do you want to?
We can.
Nate Oates is 11. TJ Otzelberger is 12. Bill Self is 13. Ben McCollum is 14. Grant McCaslin is 15. Can I say I would have McCollum and McCaslin ahead of Self?
I think it's very fair. So Self is like maybe the most controversial ranking on the entire list. Like, outside of, maybe a couple outliers that are just not as important. But let's pull up the last 3 years of Bill Self, because after all, this is not a career ranking. Otherwise, Bill Self might be number one among active coaches.
And I also think I would have Oates below Self.
Okay, you've always been lower on Oates than me.
I've gotten
you're just done with him, man.
I'm done with him right now. Like, I'm done with him right now.
I think it's a very simple formula for Alabama, and we can go into that. But let's take a look at this. The last 3 years of Bill Self. Actually, this year, despite what he was dealing with, not bad. 21st in the preseason. Ken Palm, they finished 21st. 2025, 7th in the preseason, they finished 24th. 2024, 2nd in the preseason, they finished 27th. I think that he's still a very good coach. His teams are still very competitive. They're obviously not dominating the Big 12 like they once were, but the Big 12 is better than it was when they were dominating it. I think that some of the stuff he does offensively is not as effective as it used to be. And I think that's in part because of the type of players he brought in, but also just because of the way he's building his roster. Teams have figured out how to defend them better, in my opinion.
Yes.
Good comment, Rosa.
Yeah, I'm not like.
You want to do the Oates thing?
Yeah. It's the same problem as Underwood. They have one way.
Real quick before you go into this. Pull up DeRosa's second to last comment.
I did.
This needs to be reiterated.
It was.
Dude, regional final is the greatest term in college basketball. It makes a game feel more important than a Final Four game. Screw the Elite Eight. It's a regional final.
My problem with Nate Oates, first of all, his defenses. They kind of suck.
Yeah. Like, I'd say some of the years they definitely suck for how good their team is.
They need an elite rim protector for their defense to be good, and he doesn't want to recruit elite rim protectors because they can't shoot, and he just wants 5 guys that can shoot. Fine. then why did you ever have Grant Nelson? I don't know, but
so I don't think their problem this year was having the elite rim protector, which it has
wasn't.
been in the past. And Sam, you and I have talked about that. This past year, like Aiden Sherrill was pretty good defending the rim, like one of the top 40
but
blockers.
he wasn't that. He wasn't as much of a deterrent. I don't think.
Right, he wasn't a Cliff Amarui, deterrent for instance.
And then the problem for them is that they have one way. They have one way. It's chuck threes, chuck threes, chuck threes. Like I respect it. I think it works. It's a floor raiser. Now you need to lift the ceiling.
I think the other problem they had this year is some of their guards were just complete turnstiles.
It's been a problem. Sears was a turnstile. Phylon wasn't, but
Phylon was not. Phylon was a good defender. Aiden Howell, on the other hand,
Phylon's a terrific defender for what he is.
They don't really recruit point of attack defenders, and it puts a lot of pressure on your bigs to basically clean up everything. And Aiden Sherrill was pretty good at that, but didn't quite matter as much. Like Nate Oates has had worse defenses than he's had this year, but winning a national championship with a defense that was outside of the top 60 is really hard.
TJ Otzelberger recruits really, really good point of attack defenders. I think he's a better coach than Nate Oates.
I think it's a very fair argument. Like listen, like outside of Hurley being one, and maybe the gap between Calvin and Shire at 3 and 4, like I think you could argue pretty much any coach like in a certain range is better than another. Like this is not rocket science. It's very subjective. So I like what Otzelberger is very good. I think Oates has probably accomplished more at Alabama than he has at Iowa State, but I think when it comes to the principles of coaching and like making a roster flexible, Otzelberger is probably better at that. And yeah, Nate Oates does have Drew Fielder now. I almost forgot that happened.
16 Mark Byington, 17 Mark Few, 18 Josh Schertz, 19 Ryan Odom, 20 Randy Bennett. Jonathan, go.
Yeah, so Schertz at 18 is, I think, probably the eye popper.
No, it's not. That makes a ton of sense.
I think it makes a ton of sense too, but
I don't see an eye popper here. This is a very, very solid list. Honestly, I feel like all 5 of these coaches feel like they should be higher, but obviously they can't be.
Mark Few is still quite good, despite him not having a national championship caliber team in a couple years. They've done a good job, kind of saying as a top 10 to 15 team. I'd say Ken Pom usually likes them a little more than they're probably actually, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like
there are 2 coaches on that you have listed on this list lower that I think I would have at 21 and 22.
Sorry, repeat that one more time.
Finish on 16 to 20.
Yeah, Byington, interesting roster constructions, it feels like, but he makes it work, and he's a really good scout, in my opinion. Ryan Odom, I think very easily could be argued to rank higher. He's won everywhere he's been, and has been, at 4 different places recently. Won at UMBC, he won at Utah State, won at VCU. Now he's winning at Virginia. Instantly turned the roster around at Virginia and made them a top 20 team in the country. They've won 30 games in his first year. I think you and I both agree they're going to be quite good again this year. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him higher. Randy Bennett's just been very consistent, has cornered, the market in the WCC over the last couple of years without, really elite players. I think they do a really good job developing internally and making them into good players. He's not, handpicking these 4 stars, high level players, although he has been doing that a little more recently. And now he's at Arizona State.
There are 2 coaches that you have on this list that I would have at 21 and 22 that you have a good deal lower than that.
Are we going to talk about them now, or are we waiting to get to them?
We're going to talk about them now.
Okay.
Jay Lucas and Eric Olin.
Yeah, DeRosa also told me that that Jay Lucas should be higher, and you know what? He probably should be. That's probably an error on my part. And who was the other one?
Eric Olin.
Yeah, you're a big Olin guy. He's a tremendous coach.
Like, am I the biggest Eric Olin fan?
I think so. I mean, maybe his family, but yeah. If you're,
I don't know.
You're the biggest Eric Olin fan. You're the biggest Eric Olin fan that doesn't have the last name Olin.
That might be true. That might be true.
They were 97th in preseason KenPom this year and finished 46th. So despite no tournament appearance, like, what a great year they had. And I believe they got to the NIT semis.
Yes, we were there.
I was not there. I was chatting up Riley Frayne in downtown Indianapolis. You were there, though.
Did we not just see him do it again? Like, this past year?
Oh, dude, that's a good point. Richard is Richard my least favorite coach in the country, or is he second?
Okay, I think that's fair, but I also think that, like, there was clearly not as much money in this roster as the roster that they had 2 years ago.
Yeah. I think New Mexico is going to make the tournament this year.
Yeah, I think finishing 46th in KenPom after being preseason 97th is doing it again.
I do look at like preseason versus finish in KenPom.
I think winning 26 games in year one at New Mexico after winning 30 games at UC San Diego, it classifies it as doing it again.
Yeah, and I like Sam. I think he's more so arguing with you because, like, I don't have him at 21. I have him at 39. So,
but my thing about Olin is who's better at kind of evaluating and getting the best out of guys that, like, you don't know who they are, you don't know where they come from. He finds a way to make them into elite contributors. Like Uriah Tenet and Jake Hall were, like, not notable prospects, and he got both of them to be, like, elite freshmen in the Mountain West.
I mean, he finished 39th in KenPom at UC San Diego with, like, a handful of players that, like, had been written off, like, everywhere they've been.
They were all D2 guys.
Yeah.
All right, Jonathan. 21, John Calipari. 22, Gerard Calhoun. 23, Kevin Young. 24, Fred Hoiberg. 25, Mark Pope. Kevin Young, to me, feels a little high here.
That's the one. First of all, before I get to Kevin Young, shout out John Calipari, who I think did his best coaching job of the 2020s this year.
Dude, he might have done his best coaching job of, like, the last 15 years.
Yeah, I guess, well, we're still kind of in the Anthony Davis title range. So.
The last 14 years, 13 years.
But yeah, Arkansas was legit good. They had their flaws defensively, but offense was a really fun group to watch this year. He put together a great roster. So he goes up to 21. Yeah, Kevin Young's probably the one that you could argue is a little high here, but he's had, good teams at BYU, not great ones, I'd say.
They underperformed this year.
They did underperform.
They did also get hurt.
I don't think were that bad as they were at the end of the year until Richie Saunders got hurt.
But remember, they were also struggling before he got hurt.
They were.
And they were getting smoked by Kansas when he got hurt.
Yes.
He was kind of bringing them back in that game.
But yeah, last year in his first year at BYU, he kind of figures out midway through the year that, like, they need to play through Richie Saunders, and the team turns into a top 10 team from basically February onward in a really elite year of college basketball. Now, like, I understand, like, he doesn't maybe have, like, the longevity of some of these other guys, but I think he's done a pretty good job in his first two years there, and I think more of a sample size could change my mind.
I want to see if there's an AJ DeBonta hangover.
What if Bruce Branch is as good? He's not.
He's not. Like, he just isn't.
He's not even close. He's good.
Like, you know how I feel about DeBonta. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of his game, but, like, Bruce Branch is just not.
Yes. So then, any thoughts from you on Hoiberg or Mark Pope?
Pope feels a little.
Calhoun, I think we all know is really good. So I didn't, want to talk about him.
Pope feels like in a serious inflection point here. Like
he is at the halfway point of this list.
Like he could be 6th next year, or he could be 59th.
If Mark Pope is 59th, I hate to break it to you, but he probably is out of a job.
He might be in a job somewhere else.
Yeah.
And Washington Husky.
How about that?
Hoiberg. By the way, are we ever going to be able to have Kevin Young, Mark Pope, and Pat Kelsey not right next to each other on all of these lists?
Well, I did a little bit of trolling with putting Pope and Kelsey next to each other. That was intentionally done. Although I do think that they are in a similar range. We can kind of get into these next group of 5, but
I think I'd have
the last thing I'd say is Fred Hoiberg has impressed me a lot this year. They were not as good roster wise as they ended up being, and they consistently found ways to outperform teams in close games.
Yeah,
I don't think that was a fluke.
Mark Pope, Shaka Smart, Brian Dutcher, Phil Martelli, Michael Malone.
So let's go over this one. We got guy who couldn't beat anyone good this year with a pretty good roster, even when they were healthy. Guy that's team was a total disaster for basically 90% of the season. And then you got
whose team was basically a total disaster for about 90% of the season.
But who also coached a national championship game, 3 years ago. And 4 years ago. Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Steelers podcast guest, who has been very, very good, in my opinion, in his brief college head coaching tenure. And NBA champion, 4 years ago.
Not even. 3 years.
So
2023.
Quite the section of the list we got here. I would love to see Kelsey take that next step with one of these teams. And
no, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't, but in his case, he hasn't beaten good teams in his time at Louisville, and for him to be higher, that's going to need to change, especially with the roster that he brought in this year.
Can I just say we might be cutting Louisville too much slack. That was supposed to be a top 5, top 10 team last year.
Yeah, I think I had them around 11, I want to say. And they finished, 19th in KenPom?
No, but they were never that good.
No, and it never felt like they were that good. It did for a half against Kentucky. But
yeah, Kentucky wasn't good.
A lot of teams felt that good for a half against Kentucky.
Yeah, and then Kentucky would come back every time.
So, any issues with Shocker
at 27? That good for a half against Kentucky.
Any issues with Shocker or Brian Dutcher's replacement?
No.
I think if San Diego State's not good next year, I'm going to need to start moving Dutcher down a little bit more.
Yeah. 31, Jay Lucas. 32, Mick Cronin. 33.
Are we not going to talk about Mike Malone at all?
What is there to talk about that we haven't talked about already with him?
Is this the toughest ranking I had?
Yeah, what is there to discuss?
What am I supposed to do with a guy who's never coached in college basketball, but literally won an NBA championship 3 years ago? It's a completely different sport, and I think he'll do well. I just, I don't know where to place him. Mick is 15 spots too high. So DeRosa thinks that Mick Cronin should be at 47. So 31, Jay Lucas, 32, Mick Cronin, 33, Bucky McMillan, 34, Scott Drew, 35, Greg Gard. It feels very weird to have Scott Drew at 34, considering how much I loved his Baylor team that won the national title in 2021. But he is just
Can I raise my hand here?
Yeah, Sam, you have a question?
That feels 20 spots too high.
For who?
Scott
Drew?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single person that can deny that he's been very, very bad in the last couple years.
Just straight awful.
They finished 50th in KenPom this year and had the 103rd ranked defense. And granted, defense has never been, his calling card per se, but a program with the resources of Baylor should not be finishing outside the top 100 in defense.
No. Especially not with two like NBA athletes on the wing.
Jay Lucas, we kind of talked about. We think, he's probably too low on this list.
Good ranking of Bucky. Not too high, not too low.
Yeah, Bucky had a good year. Would love to see, I still think that like this system can produce some really low floor years. And then, Greg, we got Cronin at 32, Greg Gard at 35. Greg Gard at 35, I feel like he's in the same spot every year.
He feels low.
The lack of March success is obviously what we point at here, but they're consistently good with not a lot of resources, and I certainly would hear arguments for him being higher than 35.
He feels like he should be in that Shaka, Dutcher, Martelli range.
It really does feel, by the way, like Wisconsin fans are happy with Gard like 364 days of the year.
36 Darian DeVries, 37 Nico Medved, 38 Luke Murray, 39 Eric Olin, 40 James Jones. I would have Medved higher, and I think I would have Murray higher.
Where did Minnesota finish in KenPom this year? 82. They got brutally hurt at the end of the year. But I think they're going to be pretty good this year. Nico's a really good coach. He runs great offense. To answer DeRosa's question, I don't know if they have resources like that, but it certainly feels like they have pretty good ones considering who they bring in on a yearly basis.
I like the James Jones ranking.
I think James Jones has been on this list for like 3 straight years. Like, they are the premier program in the Ivy League right now. We talked about Olin. All right. Here's I get a lot of comments on this. It's
not enough. Not enough this year.
Hardly a surprise. I didn't get ratioed this year. And when I don't get ratioed.
You got a couple Andy Kennedy comments.
When I don't get ratioed on the coaches list, it's a success, I think. And
I disagree. I want you to get ratioed on the coaches list.
I know you do for your humor. But
no, I just want more comments.
There was one comment that I wouldn't say pissed me off, but it made me think about something that, does bother me a little bit. Why do we have to sit here why do college basketball fans have to sit here and pretend like assistant coaches sit with their hands under their butt all day? Like, are we serious right now? Luke Murray runs one of the best offenses in college basketball that has played in 3 of the last 4 national title games, and he takes a head coaching job. And I can't say I don't think he's going to do a good job. What's up with that? I know you have no argument. I know you agree with me.
I mean, if you're not allowed to rank Luke Murray, then you're not allowed to rank Michael Malone.
I ranked John Shire like 18th, I think, going into his first season.
It was too low.
That has aged pretty well. So
no, it hasn't. That was too low.
Sorry. He wasn't, at that point. I think Luke's going to do a really good job at BC.
Like,
it's about as well as you can do there.
I don't really see an argument for, like, if you don't want to rank him, fine. But, like, I don't really see an argument that says that if you have an opinion based on evidence, you can't rank him.
The argument that he hasn't coached a game yet is a bad one.
Because he's coached many games, just not as the head coach.
What has he done? What has he not done that a head coach does?
Like, what is his job description? What is his job? What does he tell his kids what does he tell his friends that he does for a living? He's a basketball coach. He coaches games. He coaches basketball games for a living.
And you know what? If like Luke Murray really wanted a head coaching job in the last 3 years and like didn't care where he ended up, he would have had one.
Yes.
So that Boston College roster is not that bad, by the way.
It's very good.
41, Brad Brownell. 42, Sean Miller. 43, Brian Hodgson. 44, Will Wade. 45, Flynn Clayman.
This is like the category of coaches that I just despise. Brad Brownell, Sean Miller, Will Wade.
You skipped over Hodgson, though.
I haven't decided if I despise him
And
yet.
I know you like Flynn, the real mastermind.
Oh, I love Flynn. Flynn's awesome.
No, notice Flynn's former boss not on this list.
Todd Simon really should be on the list. Todd Simon better than Alan Huss?
So Brownell has not redeemed himself since that McNeese game.
By the way, I still haven't decided whether I like Brian Hodgson or not. Like
you and I were quite high on Brownell going into that NCAA tournament 2 years ago, and then he got slaughtered.
Yeah.
Sean Miller, also a weird one, but like kind of feel like he still belongs.
I mean, he did a really good job this year. Like this might be too low.
Sean Miller?
Yeah.
I don't think he did a really good job.
Wait.
I think he did a fine job. They were an 11 seed, played in a playing game, and made the Sweet 16. Like that team was unwatchable for 90
Well,
minutes.
they were a bad roster that like was unwatchable, but like they like nicked some games.
I didn't think that they were going to be that great coming into the year, but you know, they were preseason ranked 39 and finished 31st.
I did not have. I had them.
Obviously,
in, like,
that's aided by the tournament.
I had them in like the 50s.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be worse. So.
Yeah.
Flynn's very good. That won't be the last time he wins an NCAA tournament game.
Hodgson, I'm worried about like some of the translating stuff, but like if he doesn't work out, like I like he's got all the indicators that it's going to work.
So, and then the last five here. Luke Laux, 46 Luke Laux, 47 Jamie Dixon, 48 Dennis Gates, 49 Herb Sendek, 50 Tony Skim.
I don't know how Kyle Smith's not in your top 50.
Kyle Smith is a very fair argument to be in my top 50.
Like,
and I can't believe
Kyle
DeRosa
Smith
was
is
arguing.
better than Brad Brownell.
I can't believe DeRosa argued with me about Kyle Smith because I remember talking to him about Kyle Smith, and I don't think he liked him, but I guess
Kyle Smith is a better coach than Brad Brownell.
I think that's a very fair argument.
I will go to bat for that. I would put Kyle Smith over Scott Drew.
I had some Mizzou friends text me and asked me why Dennis Gates was in the top 50.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know if I would have him in there. Herb Sendek, shout out Herb Sendek. I saw you on 6th Avenue a couple of days ago.
DeRosa, I remember you saying something to me about like Kyle Smith and like, you know,
where's Chris Beard?
Like the results.
Where's Chris Beard?
I have a lot of comments right now that I'm going to refrain from making. And I will give you an honest answer and say that he has built in the last, year and now this year, terrible rosters.
That's fair. It's fair. This year was really, really bad. But like he was a minute away from a regional final 2 years ago. And like we know what he is as a coach, like really, really sharp coach.
He has finished below his preseason Ken Pom ranking at Ole Miss in
2 of the last 3 years.
2 of the last 3 years.
I think that's fair. But I think that with him, like year one, like still won 20 games, was really close to a regional final in year 2. Year 3, like was
awful.
Really bad.
Dude,
really
they were
bad.
awful.
Like no excuses. But I don't think that takes him out of the top 50.
I like that comment. Beard's defense has been found out and he hasn't adjusted. Yeah,
I think that's fair. But I also don't think it takes him out of the top 50.
Very fair. Luke Laux, you agree should be here though?
Not sure.
Okay.
Like
I'm a fan. That's one I'm taking a chance on.
I won't argue with it. But I don't think I would have him there.
So part of the end of this list is not exactly like if you lined it up and said like Chris Beard or Luke Laux, like I think the answer is probably Chris Beard.
But why is Luke Laux on the list?
But I used the bottom of this list to take some chances on guys that I think are really good because if I don't like put a guy on this list and then they have a really good year like I think they could, it's going to look really stupid in a year. Luke Laux is one of those coaches.
I don't know if I think Florida State's going to be that good next year.
I think they're going to be pretty solid.
I don't know if I like.
They were basically a top 20 team for the final months.
I don't know, man. I like their roster last year more than I like it this year.
Knowing what, like, I think that's kind of hindsight, knowing how they played at the end of the year.
I was high on their roster, Jonathan, last year.
We actually were, like, relatively speaking. We had a whole thing with Christian about it on the ACC preview.
I think overall this is a solid list. Russ Turner was my honorable mention.
Yeah, we'll read some honorable mentions here. Kyle Smith, Joe Gallo, Chris Collins, Matt Breyer, excuse me. That spelling always gets me. Mike Magpio, Dave Smart were my 6 honorable mentions that I put. And then we got some contributions from the friends of the program, so to say. I left Shaheen Holloway off because I knew CJ Weeps would give me him as an honorable mention, but he would have been an honorable mention for me.
I think Shaheen Holloway's in the top 50.
Again, very arguable. I only have 50 spots. And there's more than 50 good coaches. Christensen coming in with our guy Mike DeGeorge. Love that. And
not a top 50 coach, but like really good coach.
We got the Patrick Crary Ross Hodge combo from DeRosa and
that's I am like Ross Hodge's #1 fan, so I'm all in on that one. Patrick Crary, like, let's seek some help here.
Like, we got a John Gross shout out from Dylan Brett. We got
not the best coach in the CAA.
We got Chris Holt. Who do you think is
Speedy?
Okay,
or no, actually Siddle.
Who I was gonna say Speedy, who ironically Dylan Brett covers that team.
I think it would be Siddle, Speedy, then Gross.
We got a Chris Holtman mention from Cole Adams. We got a Travis Steele throw in from Patrick Dallahan. We got a Russ Turner from you. Oh, I forgot to put a parenthesis around your name. My bad, Fetterman.
All good.
And we got a John Becker from Austin Mitchell, who did not try to go with Dwayne Simpkins for the second straight year.
All right, Jonathan. I'm gonna name some coaches. You're gonna tell me.
Yeah, I was gonna say you sort of do like the best of the rest kind of thing.
You know where this starts, Jonathan? Kevin Willard.
Yeah, this is Kevin Willard and Richard Pitino. Probably my 2 least favorite coaches in the country.
Okay, I think there's 2 different levels to this. Kevin Willard, Jonathan, was like in the Sweet 16 a year ago.
And had a top 10 team a year ago.
He was in the Sweet 16 a year ago, and he just took Villanova to the tournament for the first time in 4 years.
They sucked.
They did, but like they only sucked after Matt Hodge got hurt.
Gottlieb. We're not ranking coaches who I saw going into a bar in Indianapolis. Otherwise, he'd be in there. Is Richard Pitino the other one you were going to mention?
Mike White.
We're not doing this.
Back-to-back NCAA tournament bids.
We're not doing this.
Fine. Let's not.
Yeah, okay. Well, average margin of defeat in the last 2 NCAA tournaments is what?
7,000.
I think it's actually like 23, but yeah.
Chris Collins, I know you have as an honorable mention.
Yep.
I would say, where would you have Casey Alexander? Jonathan, would you have...
Is the surprise of the list...
Okay, hold on. My question for you. If Casey Alexander built a roster that we were high on this coming year, he would be in this top 50, correct?
It's tough because, his teams were pretty talented at Belmont, like prior to this year. And they always were finishing 5th in the league, 4th in the league. Like, I don't think there's a great argument for him over Brian Wardle.
Okay.
Is the shocker of all shockers with this list that there's no Missouri Valley coaches in it?
No, we've talked about how there's no good coaches in the Valley right now.
It's not that I don't think there's any good coaches. I don't think there's any standout coaches right now.
Yes, that's fair. I mean, Evan Brads is going to be a great coach.
I think
Rob
Brad's is going to be really good. I think Rob Ason's done really well at UIC.
My next one for you is your friend Tad Boyle.
Oh, dude, Tad, you could never get me to quit on Tad, but the results just aren't there. Like, there are programs that, maybe they have more financial backing than Colorado, and maybe they have a better recruiting base from Colorado, but there's been more results. And, with Tad, he's made one of the last
4.
Oh, I guess 2 of the last 4 NCAA tournaments.
2?
Yeah, they made a. Wait, no. It's 1.
It's 2 of the last 6.
Yeah. The 2021 tournament. They were actually pretty good that year.
All right, my next one for you is Eric Musselman.
Never even crossed my mind.
Interesting. I don't disagree with that. I just think like it's a fall from grace.
Dude, I think you could argue 5-6 years ago that Eric Musselman was one of the top 10 coaches in the sport.
He was on your top 5.
But his teams were very tournament success based. Like, what regular season can you point to at Arkansas and say, like,
oh my
Arkansas
God,
had a really great regular season?
It's a good point. Red Autry.
Let me check my list of top Park District coaches here. No, like I did consider Jerry McNamara for this.
I wouldn't have had him on the list.
No, I ultimately decided against it, but he was considered.
Our friend John Tower.
Also was considered. They've won 24 games and like in back-to-back years.
Yeah,
I don't think they've been definitively the best team in their league. And that's like pretty important for mid-major coaches.
Richie McKay then.
Isn't. I don't really think they've been definitively the best team in their league either.
I just think there's such a resource advantage there.
There is, and there is at High Point too, and McNeese. But like High Point is dominating in that league. Like there's nobody close to them.
Cahill Fennell,
dude, another good one that I think could be maybe not on this list without a like legitimately shocking season, but could be an honorable mention in a year.
I mean, he could have been an honorable mention this year. I could have named him.
You could have.
I was down to him and Russ Turner.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Mike Poynton. There was just zero chance he was making this list.
Remember in the last episode when I took like 5 minutes to try and decide how I was going to describe his Oklahoma State tenure?
And you just ended up on terrible or awful, whatever it was.
Fran McCaffrey.
Oh, dude, man. I do not have a good relationship with Fran after that end of Iowa tenure.
Okay.
But it's undeniable that he did a good job this year. So a couple other like notable ones that like I thought of and didn't ultimately put on the list. Chris Gerlofson at San Francisco.
They had an awful year.
Yeah, they did not have a great year. Andy Enfield is just getting a permanent ban from this list. Until I guess he recruits another like all NBA center.
What about Bob Ritchie?
Tough one. He's been on this list before. I think some other guys have probably passed him up.
Okay.
From the mid-major level.
That's all I got.
I'm trying to think of if I have any more. Like, I put Will Wade on. That was one that was like I was teetering with it. I think Kyle Smith and Shaheen very easily could be on this. Yeah, I don't think I have a ton of other ones. I don't think any complaints about DeVries, considering he's been not great the last couple of years. And I know the West Virginia year wasn't really his fault. But
Jonathan, here are the coaches. Here are the coaches that you had on the list last year that you don't have on the list this year. Bruce Pearl.
Retired.
McDermott,
who was the second one?
Greg McDermott.
Retired.
Dusty May.
Not in college basketball.
Chris Jans.
Was terrible this year.
Chris Collins.
Was underwhelming based on my expectations this year, but still is good.
Danny Sprinkle.
Was terrible this year despite their injuries.
Mitch Henderson.
Was terrible this year.
Buzz Williams.
Was maybe the worst of any of these guys this year. Is that it?
Ross Hodge.
Still made an honorable mention thanks to our good friend Michael DeRosa.
Kyle Smith.
Was right there to make the list.
And that's it.
So part of the reason I didn't put Kyle Smith on the list this year, and I know they probably overachieved, was they had a very good chance to make the NCAA tournament with the way things unfolded, and they kind of blew it.
I just don't like. I mean, did you know who Ibuka Okori was like 10 days before the season?
I knew his name. I didn't think he was that good. But I will not be making that mistake again because Stanford is another freshman coming in who is pretty good and might be their best player.
Julius Price.
That's the name.
All right, let's look at the list from 2 years ago. Here are the names who are not.
This will probably be a little more egregious.
Greg McDermott.
Retired.
Amir Abdur-Rahim, rest in peace.
Would be top 10 on this list.
Eric Musselman.
We already talked about him.
Hubert Davis.
Permanently exiled from college basketball, maybe.
Dusty May.
Gone in the NBA.
Chris Collins.
Right there.
Chris Beard.
We talked about it.
Shaheen Holloway.
Right there.
Kyle Smith.
Also right there.
Bruce Pearl.
Fighting, with other people now.
Danny Sprinkle.
We talked about.
Jerome Tang.
Oh, jeez. That is probably the worst one to make the top 50, if we're being very serious.
Chris Jans.
Yep.
Mitch Henderson.
Yep.
Jim Larinaga.
This has gotten really consistent over the last couple years.
Fran McCaffrey.
Okay.
Steve Peichel. Matt Langle.
To be fair, leading up to that year, there was a very easy justification for Peichel on that list.
Matt Langle.
Same with Langle, honestly.
John Becker.
Yep.
Micah Shrewsbury.
Yeah, dude, I can't quit on Micah either. I have quit. I've quit. I know DeRosa hasn't quit either. I can't quit on him. He's too good of an X's and O's coach. Honestly, I think this list has gotten pretty consistent over the last couple years. You could see some of these guys that get taken off the list, it's because they're not in college basketball anymore. And very few of these guys have turned into bad coaches that I've had in the top 50. If I take a guy off the top 50, there's usually a reason.
All right, Jonathan, that's it for all we got. You want to take us home?
Yeah, if you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he's working, you came to the right place. If you came to hear about Jerome Tang in the top 50 coaches list, you came to the right place. And if you hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, you came to the right place. This has been season 7, episode 20 of Brackets, Bubbles, and the Bid Stealers, and we'll see you next time.